All right. Hello, everybody. KP here with another KP Talks. Got a lot to talk about. We had a couple Materia Cups the last few weeks, and I brought a good friend of mine on here with me, Sam Tuell. What's going on?
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy goes well with that picture. So we're gonna start with a little bit of Kansas City talk. I guess I'll pull up the top eight real quick as well. I'll just click on this right now. It's fine. Just go over. This is the event that Sam Prime won with Wall, um, and me, uh, Sam Toole, Aaron Wiseman, and then second Christina all decided to bring Leo. I don't think there was another Leo. I think it was just us four. And me and Aaron ran the same list, but other than that, all of us had some different card choices. And we did pretty damn well at the event. Like 3 out of 4 of us made top 32.
Pretty
Uh,
pretty good conversion there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty insane conversion. If I do say so myself.
And two in top eight out of four. We'll take those numbers.
Yeah, exactly. And what what ultimately did this in was the 13 minutes.
Yeah. That was pretty much across the board though, right? It was
Yeah,
like I think Christina lost to Swar or she lost to the monster
I think
deck.
Tori. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So she lost to the undefeated first place Swiss.
yeah. And I lost the one and into Wall, which I believe at the time Wall was 50-50. So it's a close matchup and could go either way. So,
Yeah,
but
absolutely. My match against Sam Prime and Swiss was very close. I think I played slightly suboptimally on like two or three turns. But there are a lot of moving pieces. I'm sure we'll go over with Leo, but there are a lot of moving pieces, and there's so many times where I kind of like look back and I'm like, oh, I definitely could have done something more optimal
mhm.
in the time as just like you've got so much weird stuff kind of working and like your brain kind of I don't know about you, but when I'm trying to play the Leo deck, my brain's always like trying to think like multiple turns ahead of like where I'm getting to the combo and then what I'm getting out of the combo.
Yeah,
Um Especially like in the earlier and mid game. Where it's like I'm barely even thinking about the current board state. I'm just more trying to think towards some of the later ones, which can, of course, trip you up if you forget something's in play or how some things will interact.
yeah, exactly. Like, uh, I guess we'll just get to the point of why to play Leo. So, because Leo has a huge cost restriction to it. You
Well,
have to.
well, first we gotta go over my reason of playing Leo, and my
Okay, all
reason
right, all
was
right.
I got to stay with you, and I told you no matter what you were playing, I was playing it, and then I got to actually test the deck the week before the event at just the local games, and I played a super suboptimal list because I was missing some cards, and the deck still just blew me away. I hadn't had so much fun playing Final Fantasy in like forever. So
Oh yeah, hands down.
I
This
was
is
sold.
like,
It's sold within one game.
yeah,
The first time you actually cast Leo, you're already sold.
exactly. Like this is probably the most fun I've played in this game in a long time. Not to say that like other things aren't fun. It's just like you're you're trading one CP. You're paying one CP to like put in play, the big stuff, or to respin, or to like Sildra to get a respin and something. Like there's so many
Oh,
different
you know
things.
what? You know what the feeling is? The feeling is being a kid and going into a toy store, and then your parents say, "Go pick out your favorite toy, and then we'll buy it."
Yeah,
That's what the feeling is of playing Leo.
yeah,
Hid in the toy store.
I definitely agree with that. And so like, so the goal obviously you need 1 through 6, but the backups give you five of the numbers. Um, we decided to play Gordon over Princess Sarah basically because we didn't want a light card because like all the Unes floating around and all that jazz. Like, yeah, we could just replay it, but sometimes we don't even need to have all five backups in play to go off. So sometimes we wouldn't want to replay it. So having the Gordon in play, also with Gordon, like this card filters you through your deck. It helps you fill your discard pile up for Lina. It just checks all the boxes. You can Sarah for it. Um,
Yeah,
so
you had initially mentioned the Gordon, and what really sold me on it was after my first time playing, I noticed I never had a 2-drop in play, but I always
yeah,
had like a Kadov or an Adamantoise just like hanging around in play, and I was like, I don't know how I would like the 2-drops are so important that you want to kind of fire them off, and so they kind of never stick around in play, whereas the 1-drops like you don't have to fire off a Quidov. You don't have to fire off the Adamantoise.
yep,
It's nice to have them, but like they're perfect for being that 1-drop and just kind of hanging around.
yeah. When you're going off, sometimes you have to, you have a second chief in play and you have to use it, which means you lose your 2-drop, which means you can't Leo again. Whereas like since we play Gordon, these like 1-drop monsters, they're these turtles, they're just chilling. We don't have to use them immediately, so it's no big deal. Um, but yeah, like the whole goal
Main
is
reason, yeah, was our main reason of going for this.
yeah, exactly. So our whole goal of this was to pay 1 CP to play something that's I don't want to say busted, but pay 1 CP for like a Sephiroth or a Thancred or any of these heavy hitters. And if we miss, we will hopefully hit a respin with Sildra or with Sahagin. Well, I guess it put Sahagin in place, so it doesn't really work. But with like a way to get Sahagin, Sahagin Chief, Realm counts as a respin. Sometimes, I mean, Thancred is a hit, but also sometimes a respin as well, which is why Thancred's insane. But also, like, you can cast your backups. If you don't have all 5 of your backups in play, sometimes, like I said, Thornton before, like, if we don't have a 5, if we had Realm, which this happened to me a decent amount, actually. If your curve is literally, like, Sarah, Waka, Larsa, and then you play Realm, that's all 6 numbers already. So you, it's kind of absurd that you can do that. So you could like Leo into Thornton to go get like a Sahagin, and then Sahagin your Leo and play it again, and just keep going while building your backups. While you don't always want to put in play a backup. Like you're still paying 1 CP for this. Don't forget that. Like it's still definitely worth it.
I
So
definitely had a game where I had 4 backups out, and then I just played an Ash and a 1-drop and was able to get there from there.
yeah,
So
exactly.
didn't need the Larsa. And Ash would like I kind of had to play the Ash anyways because they had kind of a scary board, and I was like, oh, this works out. Ash, Adamantoise, Leo, like
Yeah, the
crack their board and be able to get tons of value.
I guess one of the big things too to point out is there are like we're more of a mono water Leo deck, and there are other versions that are 2 colors. But what stuck with me with mono water was Ash is a 6-drop that 6-drop, and Lina is just ridiculously powerful in this deck, resing Thancred or Leviathan. And I think if we ever did like a 2-color version, it's really hard to play cards like that. We would need some other cost reduced card, I think, if we wanted to go 2 colors. But I'm not quite sure what else is out there. Um, but yeah, I guess we can.
We can talk over like some of the differences. I know
Yeah,
like right before the event, like definitely we only had a few games, or I personally only had a few games with the deck, but I definitely had some insights on my personal opinion on some stuff. And I definitely was very very high on Theodore, mostly due to his haste, and so that kind of also led us over to Aranea as well, as like wanting to have haste to be able to kind of close out the game. Um, Also, like as weird as it seems, because like normally you can't really cast Aranea, but like because we have a reasonable amount of like lightning cards, you can actually just sometimes they kind of get clogged in your hand, and so I would actually kind of high value hold like Thancreds in hand, trying to draw like a second Thancred or a lightning or an RNA. And actually in one of my games I actually Sildred for another Thancred to pitch to the Thancred that was already in hand so I could play the Thancred. So like small stuff like that of actually playing some of the purple cards uh, was really big. I know early on you had mentioned you were like almost kind of joking at first, but then you were like, the more you kept thinking about it, you were like, no, this might be real. The 7 CP lightning.
Yeah. Yeah, so real quick
Oh,
with the Sildra and Thancred and all of that, like we this is also a difference between your deck and my deck. Like you added the Shadow Lord because you could get ICP as well with Shadow Lord.
yep.
I don't have Shadow Lord, but sometimes you draw Sephiroth or Theodore, and look, discarding two is still really good, like, so being able to get Shadow Lord for ice, and then maybe I don't know, a monster, or if you're already online, getting a Leo with your Sildra, or whatever you need, right? Like it discarding, making them discard is sometimes just like a huge backbreaker. And we also
Yeah, I think
we don't really mind paying, like if we discard three to play the Sephiroth, right? We don't really mind because at the end of the day, we're paying one for our stuff anyways. So trading our three for their two sometimes is still worth it.
yeah, it feels so weird to like look at a deck like this where it's like you're making up so much value, but then you do have like all these kind of like dead cards in your hand sometimes,
Hmm.
and so you kind of just want to be able to convert them to other value. I definitely at least hardcast Theodore twice during the Kansas event, and Sephiroth at least once during the event. So even
I
though they seem weird to like pay that much for, they're still worth it.
Yeah, I didn't do it in the event ever. I've never hardcast Sephiroth, but I have definitely hardcast Theodore. Like you said, haste is relevant. So,
Hmm.
also some of the things that we'll go with the differences still, but I want to also mention cards we didn't play that were on our mind too. This lightning, like you said, like there's a last second edition. So I guess one of our weaknesses that is very big is 13, and just another part of why we play the deck is this deck goes over the top. And what we mean by that is it's the highest ceiling in the game kind of a thing. That's what you mean. If which isn't true, by the way, it's just what we thought. But what we meant by that is if anybody's ever going big, we're going bigger. So like the wall decks, they go big. They do their wall Fusoya turn, their wall Une turn. That's a pretty insane turn. But I mean, sometimes we play Leo like 4 or 5 times in a turn. So that's what we mean by going over the top. And also we're only paying 1 CP every time we do it, or when we bounce, we pay 2 CP to bounce it, or discard Sahagin, however you want to do it, or play a blue mage and get back Sahagin and bounce it and play it again. We're getting incremental value, um, so not many decks could keep up with that kind of value. Wall can't necessarily keep up, but they can keep up because their quality is high. So that's a little bit of a difference for that. But one of the weaknesses is 13 because we can't get to the 1 through 6 restriction here on Leo. So actually, like our strategy most of the time is like we just abandon Leo. And if you when you think about it, your main strategy is to play Leo, and you're abandoning your main strategy. It's probably a bad matchup. So we did everything we could at the time to try and find a good way to combat the 13 deck. And something we did along the lines was like add this lightning, to add more lightnings to the deck so we could um and water lightning. While adding more water lightnings sounds like it'd be good, it's still not necessarily the right thing. uh it felt like the spots were, in my opinion, like just too valuable. Whereas like sometimes this water lightning is not good enough. It's good enough against like 13, but in other matchups it kind of didn't feel that great. Whereas this 7-drop lightning in other matchups makes you Shantoto proof. Like I remember putting against Kelly in the tournament, and he like Shantoto'd my board for 7 forwards, and I could have like Sahagin Chief some stuff to my hand, but I didn't because I had 2 cards removed from lightning, and I'm just like, yeah, that resolves. I'll add a Leo to my hand, and I forgot what else was under it. But I was like, I just rebuilt after that. Like I didn't really mind him Shantotoing, and also I wouldn't have extended so much if I did mind. So Also, this adds recursion to the deck that the deck doesn't have very much of, and it also is pseudo removal. We also have like the cool trick of target two of their forwards, hold priority on the stack, bounce lightning. Those cards are gone forever now, so this card kind of checked a lot of the boxes for us.
Yeah, I definitely against a soiree matchup in top 16, I essentially established like a small loop where he was like trying to kill my forwards every turn. But I was just pulling out Thancred to pull out Lightning. Lightning would target a Thancred in my discard pile and the RNA in my discard pile, and so they'd both be underneath the Lightning. He'd kill my board, and then I would just get
Dirty.
those two back and then literally do the exact same thing the next turn. I know I did that 2 turns in a row, and he was like, I just wasted my whole last turn. I was like, a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Here's my list. There's a little bit of difference. I played this Cloud. I played Leviathan. Is
Now,
that
what's
it?
the real reason we played the Cloud?
The real reason is that when you ETB, you kill a Warrior Light and an Une.
Are you sure it wasn't because it was max rarity full art signed Cloud?
I mean, I did play that card. I'm not gonna deny that. But if this card wasn't good, I wouldn't have played it. I'll say that right now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
uh, but yeah, that was the whole point of it, was to kill two forwards, because sometimes that matters. But hindsight,
I
it wasn't really worth it.
Yeah, those two card differences was the Emperor for me and the Shadow Lord. Shadow Lord being able to tutor
Yeah.
the ICP, and then Emperor being able to essentially like Miss Dragon their discard pile or pick back up a card out of my discard pile. Both of which were very relevant in my matchups. Like I used both effects plenty of times, so he definitely put in a lot more work. And the fact that even though he's off color, you can just kind of always play him with the warp. That helps. Important thing to note with the Emperor is you do get his effect if you cast him off Leo. So
Yeah, or if you res him with Ancred too. Like, it's just due to any ability. It doesn't matter what the ability is. So that's kind of hype that it works with Leo. um, but at the end of the day, when we were doing our differences, when we were trying, our opinions on our decks, it was uh this spot, the Emperor and Lev. We At the end of the day, we wanted one more way to recur in case we drew all three Leos early. Because if that happens, we have to play our backups, right? We have to set up all that kind of stuff. So we would have to get it back. Like, we'd hold on to the third Leo for as long as possible, but you do what you got to do, right? So we wanted a way to get Leo back if we needed to. Yes, we technically had Lightning, but it's an off-color card, and that's not
it's
as
slow.
reliable. Yeah. So I played one of this Lev for a couple reasons. A little small hedge against 13. Yeah, I don't like relying on bursts, but like, it's a small hedge against 13, which is our worst matchup. But also, we are kind of like outside of what's on the board, like if we have Saga and Chief in play, um, we're kind of a main phase oriented deck, and we only do stuff on our turn for the most part. And they wouldn't really expect this out of nowhere, if I'm playing a one of. So that's little small percentages, but Sam having the Emperor, like you said, like interacting with the opponent's break zone, that can be extremely relevant, especially against like Soiree or Warrior Lights, things like that. So
Yeah, and
uh
you mentioned us losing our Leos, which actually happened to me in one of my Swiss matches against Square Enix employee Matthew Rice. Um, I had to pitch two. I had all three Leos in my hand by turn two, and I had pitched two of them. I had the third one still staying in my hand. Obviously, I wasn't going to pitch it because I knew it was my last one. I was just like, well, I got to hold on to it. And then he slams down an Irwin with four
oh
soirees in play and looks at my hand and looks at my discard pile and takes the Leo. And I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. Luckily, I was able to get the Leo out of the discard pile, but like without that, like I could never gotten my combo going.
yeah, exactly. So I will say that there's a time where Leo doesn't matter anymore when playing this deck. But that's usually like after you've already Leo'd like maybe 4 times. So, but like, yeah, there are just some times early game where if if you lose access to all your Leos, what are you doing? So you need to have a backup plan, and a lot of times that backup plan is Lena, which is also why I kind of lean more towards the water plan because in a way we're just like a worse mono water deck with this deck, right? We don't have Kuchelin, we don't have summons, we don't have bursts really
But we
that
churn through
interact.
our decks for sure.
Yes, so like
And Lena being there is great.
Lena Lev or Lena Thancred is like very solid in this deck. So having a or Lena be our backup like super relevant. Um, what else is there? So 13 is one of the worst matchups, but honestly, that was honestly probably the only thing I was super scared of in the room. Okay, another one, Art Chaos. So, Art Chaos is actually the ceiling in the game. I feel like we thought we were going over the top of everybody, and then a certain Ryan Chen showed up with Art Chaos, and
He was too scared to play Leo and instead played Chaos.
yeah, played 6 dark cards. Uh, but that
Like a true coward, played 6 dark cards.
that deck is actually like that's another example of going over the top, right? It's uh you're doing something that's better than everybody else, and that matchup is a terrible one for us. Yes, we're like a monocolor deck per se, so that's good against chaos. Yes, sometimes we have purple cards, all that kind of stuff, but the issue is that we can't keep up with recurring um arcs. So while we have like this one CP thing going on, it still he's casting an arc this 9 CP card for free. So over and over and over. Whereas like we're paying one for like 7 drops. I mean, I know it's not all about that math, and I know like, you know, it doesn't all add up, but the point is he still goes higher than us. So our chaos deck still goes higher than us. So that was
And that
also not the
that
best
leaves
matchup.
us in like a really rough spot in the format right now, coming off the last Materia Cup, which had a bunch of 13 in the top cut, and had a few Chaos Arc decks in top cut as well. It's like if both of those are really rough matchups, like I wouldn't say they're like complete death nails, but
Hmm.
against 13 I would, because like we mentioned, is like in the early game, I'm not even thinking about the early game. I'm already thinking about how to get my combo going, and 13 does not give you time to do that. So,
No, we have to
it
hope they draw poorly. Like if they ever draw their best draw, we have 0% chance to win. And that's a feel bad. We have to hope they draw poorly.
yeah,
Um, but I guess that's a good segue to since we're talking about next meta, we can
yeah.
we can segue over to mono water. Um,
Wait,
this
it's mono. I don't know. That deck name does not say mono water. What does that say?
it says bottle water.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, for our British friends from across the pond, you know. So we worked with another small group of friends on this list. There's me, Lopez, Oki, and CD. We all played the same 50. One of us had to play a couple. CD played a couple extras because we couldn't find this double bounce lev anywhere. He played the new one, the free one, even though we had to pay one for it for Yuna. But he said it worked out pretty well. He said he bounced like a Zidane, a Firewind Zidane, and then also bounced a Warrior Light with it. So that, I mean, can't get any better than that, right? So, but yeah, we played this list this weekend for a lot of reasons. And we got first, second, third in Swiss, and then after the day two, it was first, second, and I think technically fifth because Lopez, yeah, fifth. Lopez lost in top 8, but he was, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was fifth. Um, so and just for some stats, I guess I wish we could have kept track of this for Leo, because I love this kind of stuff. But day one we went, excluding team kills, we went 20-2, which is super insane, above 90% win rate. And then including day two, we went 35-5. Again, excluding team kills. So that's an absurd win rate. If we compared that to Magic days, that so
That's like guaranteed winning a GP
yes,
overall combined
that's
right there. Yeah.
yeah. I compared it to, because you gotta go 13-2 to top 8 of GP. That
Hmm.
this is above that win percentage. So that's kind of absurd. And we also all played different things. So like played against different things. So yeah, there's that. I guess something that I'll point out is our 50th card was the second Porom EX. We went through a bunch of different things. We went through like Alphano, went through Forward Minwoo, the 4-drop. Uh, we went Kadash. Kadash is also very good, but it's also a dark card. Poo Poo, a third Poo Poo, third Tonberry, and third Yuna. Um,
Yeah, the not third Yuna is definitely like a weird thing that I'm sure a lot of people like look at and go like, why not three? Like it seems insane in the deck. You've got tons of summons. You got Soldra, which is your main game plan.
yeah. Let me see if I can I do it in here? We'll just do it.
Play the
Well,
deck. You just draw the whole deck if you
yeah,
want. Play it
easy.
all in your hand.
I haven't used this very much. So, um,
Well, there
I'm
you go.
I'm gonna explain
Your
why
turn one, or why the Yuna?
why I cut the Yuna real quick. So we need Soldier. I'm just gonna take out all of the backups for now. We already have Yuna. It's okay. And Echidna, and also why we have 3 Geomancers. So the difference with starting with Yuna. So we're assuming we're going first here. Um, if we start with Yuna, and there's a lot of different ways you can do this. There's a lot of interchangeable things. Um, but if we start with Yuna, then we will technically have one more card in our hand than if we don't start with Yuna. But if we don't start with Yuna, we'll have an Echidna in play instead of that card. So in some situations that's better, and in some situations that's worse. But because it's very close, and it's technically, like, if you do math, it's even, then that means you technically don't always have to open with Yuna. So the exception also is in some matchups you do want to open with Yuna because you don't want to Sildra for Yuna. Those are the cases where you'd want to play three. I think FF13 is one of those cases, but other than that, I'm not exactly sure where else I'd want that to be. And also against 13, I still feel like it's 50-50, but or maybe 45-55. I think it's more of a who goes first. If we go first, it might actually be like 60-40, because we'll have access to more backups in play. But if we go second, then we definitely cannot Soldier for Yuna. So yeah. Okay, so I'll just do the turn on play with Soldier, or with Yuna right now. So we do that, and then how does this work? Activate
You can
all.
probably
I'll
just
just yeah, I'll just do
untap.
it. So then we would cast
So
our
we just go for the one backup on turn one, and then since we're getting the discount, go for the two backups on turn
yeah,
two.
we will get 2 backups. So in this case, you could get actually no, we would have, yeah, we can get these. That's fine. We could get Geomancer if we wanted, but this Artemisian, by the way, could technically be any 2-drop. But we, since Sildra is kind of busted right now, we want every chance we can get to have Sildra. That's the whole
Yeah,
point.
it's effectively like a mulligan into a Sildra, right?
Yes.
Because
So
like you could almost just keep a hand of just Artemisian, because like the odds of you potentially hitting a Sildra off of just Artemisian is like pretty good.
yeah, so the goal of this deck is you always want to open a Sildra. So you mulligan for it. The only time that we would not mulligan for it is if we had like three backups in our hand, not two. Two's not good enough. We'd want three. So,
Yeah, it needs to be better than what Sildra is, because
correct.
technically Sildra is
Five
four
backup. No, it's
backups.
five.
Four?
Yeah, I'm about to show you.
Okay, yeah.
So discard two, play summoner, get back Sildra, discard whatever, play Artemisian. If you want to cycle your card, you can, but it doesn't matter. And then go to our next turn. So it's a turn two, by the way. Go to our next turn, draw two. Cast Sildra. And go get
Both Geomancers or a walk in a Geo.
you cannot get two Geomancers because
Oh,
they're the same
oh yeah,
cost.
yeah, yeah. Sildra.
Yeah.
So a walk in a
Walk in
Geo.
Geo.
Yeah.
So this would mean on turn 4 you have all of draw from Waka, whatever, real 3, whatever. But on turn 4 you have 5 backups. So
Turn
four
four, you
cards.
untap with 5
Yeah,
backups.
on tap,
Yeah,
which
you
is huge.
technically had the 5 on
And
3. So like if your last card in hand was like an Ash, you could like play that out
yeah.
if
So
you really needed to.
and that's important too because we had one card in our hand, right?
Hmm.
So if you open Yuna and Kadaj, then you're safe. You can do everything we just did.
You mean Sildra,
Uh,
Yuna and Sildra?
Yuna, Sildra, and Kadaj, all three.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the dark card wouldn't screw you over. But
Yeah.
in this other case I'm about to show you, it would screw you over. So 25% of the time you would get screwed over. So cuz you have to it's like 50-50, but then it's also 50-50 if you go first or second. So but if you go second this entire time I'm going to be simulating 6 card hands. If you go second you have 7. So again that wouldn't screw you over. So I've showed you one way where you could have a dark card. So just remember, we have 5 backups and 4 cards in our hand. So new game, I guess. See what happens. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. So actually, this is a hand that I would keep, but this is also very rare. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, this was something I was asking you about before, where it's like, do you keep, like a hand of just 0 backups and just Sildra, and then if so, like what is your turn 1 look like there?
Uh,
So
yeah, for me, I would probably Artemisian and play a Geomancer, and then next turn Geomancer Waka. But yeah, put this up here. Put this up here. I need a Soldier now. Deck. Give me a Soldier. Okie doke. So, just imagine like this was my hand. This on top. These are hands I would keep because of the
yep.
Soldier. So, if they misdragon this, yeah, that sucks. But guess what? This is 5 backups. That's how powerful Soldier is. So, draw for turn, discard 2. Soldier. Go get Yuna and Summoner. And then discard our hand. Just put these back to play both of them. So play both. Have Soldier in our hand. Go to our next turn. Sildra, because it costs 3. And I would go get. Oh, I need Echidna. I would go get Geomancer and Echidna. Echidna. Sildra's gone. Play the Geo. Discard. Play the Echidna. I guess I'll put it down here. Just whatever. Give back Sildra. Go to our next turn. It's turn 3. Cast Sildra. Go get Geo and Waka. And play them both. Discard. Play. Draw from Waka.
And then you get to draw, yeah.
And then go to
And so let's turn 3, you're full setup, you have an Echidna in play, and
so this is the difference.
You're like you're looking at 3 cards on your turn 4 plus 5 backups. It's like this is the power of just having so many 1 CP backups, and the power of Sildra, obviously,
Yeah.
just being like so consistent. The fact that you can essentially is mulligan for just a Sildra and you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Is so powerful.
So, and the other thing too is like those I mean, the hand I showed at the very beginning wasn't very good. It was like what Titus and Lena and some
Yeah,
stuff, but like,
but it doesn't matter.
yeah, it doesn't matter unless they counter your Sildra. But there are a lot of like fillers, like Tonberry, like Blue Worm, things like
Well,
Echidna
and even if
actually.
they counter your Sildra, right? Like, yeah, you could just have Echidna and just like
Yes,
get back.
or you could just naturally have Summoner too. Like there are ways around it. Now I will say it like the right play on turn one is to like Miss Dragon the Sildra. Not I had a lot of people like I'd go turn one Sildra, they let it resolve, and I'd get Yuna Summoner, and then I would try to summon her back Sildra, and they would remove it from game. I think that is wrong. Would I'd be at 0 cards in hand? Yes, but I think that's wrong because this kind of deck specifically, like you don't need 5 backups. Yes, you need 5 backups, but also you have a lot of outs to draw. The curve. I'm going to go back to the deck list if I can. Yeah. The curve is extremely low. You can see the charts over here, like 1, 2, 3. Like it's we can play off of 1 or 2 backups very simply. Also, we play a lot of bursts, so we, if you're like misdragoning and then like I don't know, you end up attacking a lot. I don't think a lot of decks do that nowadays, but like we can gain the value back like that too. I guess my point is that if you're dragoning on turn one, you kind of need to end the game like early, and I feel like you can't really do that, which means uh you should probably prevent the water deck from setting up, which means you should probably just cancel the initial misdragon, not remove it from game. Um, which a lot of people at this tournament didn't really do, at least not to me. And I think pointing that out is pretty big. If you see a mono water deck going forward, I think it might be this one. I mean, there could be other ones too. I guess it depends if you see crystals or not. Because if they have crystals, they probably play 5 or 6 more backups. But if you don't see crystal stuff, then you might consider just canceling the Sildra altogether because 1 Sildra means 5 backups.
Well,
So,
and but like the crystal deck, does have like a little bit of, may not necessarily stronger, but like different oomph that it can put out with Glaciella just being able to like kill pretty much any forward
mhm.
at pretty much no cost. But like the trade-off is you guys don't ever like have dead draws for the rest of the game. You're drawing no backups because they're all in play. I mean, you run almost no extra backups, and all the extra geomancers you draw you can cycle.
Yep.
It just what was your main like difference of like why you wanted to run this over that Glaciella version? Is it just that the fact that you're just never dead drawing for the rest of the game?
Yeah, so that's the biggest one is we have less backup count. And that's the dead draw part actually is also why I prefer to Yuna. Is the way that you lose. So I don't want to. This is not the greatest comparison, but it's good in theory. Like the Doga decks, right? Back in the day, the way that you lose is by drawing too many summons or by drawing, too many backups when you're only playing like 6 to 10 backups, right? But those decks also only wanted 2 backups in play. This one wants 5 if you can, but you don't need 5. Um, but the difference is that like if you ever draw both your Unas, for example, or if you have 3 Unas in your deck, what if you draw multiple of your Unas? But those are dead draws. Technically, the second Echidna is a dead draw. The second Tros is technically a dead draw. Um, these 2 3 CP Leviathans, while they're not dead, they are too specific, which is why they're 1-ups, by the way. And they can also be considered dead draws at times. The 6 CP Leviathan can be a dead draw, although it's extremely powerful, so that's why it's a 3 of. So they're just very like niche. So like if you ever brick and have only like 2 backups, maybe I mean sometimes you only have 1 backup. Same thing with Ash. Ash is dead draw in those situations too. But you can play out of it because there's like less than 10 cards in your deck that are dead draws. It's so that's the main reason that kind of drew me into this kind of a deck. I mean, you could see it in my top four match against Ghoul. Uh, I mean, I went turn one Porum EX. Like, you know, like, is that a good play? No, but it's an acceptable play because anytime I draw a Sildra, I know that I can get the five backups. Same thing, like I could go like turn one Blue Worm, go, or turn one Tonberry, go. Do I want to do that? No, but guess what? It gets me closer to a Sildra, and that's what the important part is getting closer to that Sildra. Also, that same match against Ghoul, in top four, my game two, I went like 30-ish cards deep, and I didn't see Yuna or Sildra, and I still think that I put up a fair match against him. There's credit for that as well. Like, you'll be struggle bussing and you'll be, behind, but if you can get to the Sildra eventually, you can pull back ahead. So it's similar to Leo, but not. I mean, Leo's a combo deck, right? It's similar to Leo in
Yeah.
the sense of, um, you're kind of exchanging your resources early to set up, and then eventually you'll Ash Lightning them like Mono Water does, or Lena Lev them, or you'll have Tros out and you'll hit bursts or cast these Leviathans and stuff. But the other thing is that like you might trade up a lot. Um, like this Tonberry has blocked like 5 CP cards before, like, and that's okay. I am okay with discarding a card here. Um, Something that it didn't come up, but I kept it track of is that this is technically like an infinite discard outlet. If we can't cast any more cards, we could just discard our hand if we wanted to pump or to use Lena to fuel our graveyard. Like there's stuff like that. There's also in the
Or
mon
against like ice lightning, ice earth, if they have
yes,
like a Weiss in play,
yes.
you
So
can
that's good to
discard to
know.
your own effect rather than making or getting discarded by
To
them.
dull freeze, yeah.
Yeah.
So something else that's noticeable for the mono water mirror, maybe in some other parts, I'm not completely sure because it's very niche. Sometimes I activated my echidna and then I negated it with this Porum so that I wouldn't draw a card, but it would still be an 8K forward, but it wouldn't have an ability. So there's some little niche stuff like that, I suppose.
I assume in situations where deck out is
Yes,
becoming a problem.
and that's the
Yeah.
other thing too is me. I think Oki. I don't know about Lopez or CD, but we never came to deck out except for in the mirror match. That's it. Um, and if you've never played a deck like this before, I recommend practicing. I also recommend, um, actually, I learned to not deck out from playing Leo because Leo you can deck out a lot too. um,
Oh yeah. I
so
definitely got down to like 5 cards
yeah,
plenty of games in Kansas where you're just like, I've dealt my opponent 0 points of damage, but I have 5 cards left in deck.
yeah.
Time to kill them.
Yes, exactly. So that exact same thing can happen in this deck with mono water, but there are also some games that it does take a long time to win. So I guess in both scenarios here, if you play either Leo or mono water, keeping track of the clock is very valuable because Leo you'll probably have more game actions, so you have to be quick. But in mono water, you might not have as many game actions, but you can have a lot of interactions. So, but you have to know what to do and when, and it could take you a longer time to win. Sometimes you just have a couple monsters in play, and a Tidus is chipping it away, and then you have like a handful of summons. So it'll take like 5 turns to win, but you have to be aware of that situation. Or
Well, in
sometimes,
situations like that, you also, like as much as, it kind of sucks is you have to, make sure your opponent's not going to take like too much of the time as well, because it's like it may not
yes,
be on you, but like you were saying, like if it takes you 6 more turns to win the game, but we've been playing the game for quite a while, even if your turns are instant, like your opponent can take a quite a long time to take some of their turns. So that, through no fault of necessarily anything. So it's important to just kind of make sure to like be on the clock the whole time, not just like once it becomes an issue.
Yeah, and that's big too. Is be respectful about it, but make sure that both players are playing at a reasonable pace, and at a pace that somebody can end the game. And I think that's very important to notice
Yeah,
with
because
these kind of
I think
strategies.
we've definitely gotten to the point. I think one of the big things is the amount of text on your average card is quadrupled or more.
Mm-hmm.
Since I mean you guys look at like Opus 1 Leviathan as a comparison to what Opus 14 Leviathan, or then go look at Titus, and it's like you can see how much more text is on cards nowadays. And so things get a little muddy and a little bit more complicated, but like we still like my matchup against Oki in Florida. um his deck wasn't taking his deck is slow to win, so it's very similar to Monowar in that sense, where he was playing Ice Earth, but I was definitely using more of the clock than he was. um Mostly it's due to like I had a little bit more complicated stuff going on my side of the field, and it was going to kind of take me a little bit longer to think through my lines. But like that's definitely not necessarily fair to my opponent, even though I have the more complicated deck. I still need to try to give both players equal time on the clock.
Yes,
uh there.
exactly. It's the same kind of thing of like if you're playing mono wind, you shouldn't show them with mono wind if you don't know the matchups and things like that. Like you should know what you're doing if you're bringing that deck to the tournament, because one, it's not fair to your opponents if you don't know the matchups, but two, it's also like you should know what your deck's doing at all times, kind of a thing. So and if you don't, I get it. Like there are some unusual things that happen. Sometimes, I mean, I played against Kingsglaive this weekend, and I had to read a lot of their cards. I knew what the abilities were, but I didn't know which ability belonged to which Kingsglaive.
Yeah.
So I had
I'm
to
not gonna
double check.
not gonna lie. I was typing in that deck list to play it on online, and I couldn't figure out which one's Sonitus again. I was
Uh
like,
huh.
wait, which one's oh, it's another Kingsglaive guy. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like in those situations, that's even more critical to know what your cards do. Just because like as much time you need to save as much time as you can with these kinds of decks. Um, and then I guess I'll say why I played. So in addition to playing only two Yuna, I showed you why they're very close to the same of playing two or three with the demonstration earlier. But we have three Geomancer, and a lot of times we thought about playing two. We actually cut the third unit for the third Geomancer because and I think that was mostly my call, a little bit of Lopez's too. Um, we weren't sure how popular Heck 3 was going to be after Sam Prime won Kansas City with Warrior Light, and a lot of people like teching in Heck 3 and spamming it with Une and things like that. And if that's the case, and they blow up Waka and Summoner, because in both of our cases we have both of these, um, if we have only two Geomancers, we cannot get the five backups. So that's a problem. Can we only play with like four? Yeah, we definitely can. But we'd much rather play with five. And adding the Geomancer, in my opinion, doesn't come at a cost. At least not currently with the way the game is. Like maybe if the game shifts so much that you really need to open with Yuna in your hand, then maybe we just go to nine backups. I'm not sure, but we would definitely want to be give ourselves access to having five backups if possible. So that's the biggest thing with Geomancer. Also, if they're not heck threeing you, like you said a long time ago, like we can just cycle this, and that's not the end of the world.
yeah.
So,
Well, and you talk about the stack going forward, which obviously it's Model War. It'll stand the test of time. It'll be
mhm.
be good. But like it seemed like a particularly good meta call for that weekend. Like you guys seems like you almost had like foresight, seeing all those Cat 13 decks,
Hmm.
which it seems like you guys have a pretty good matchup. The Chaos Arc decks, obviously this mono water, almost like the opposite of Leo, right? Is we spoke with Viridian plenty of times, is he hates fighting against the mono water. It's like all these little you know monsters just slowly creep their way in, and it's really hard for that deck to deal with all the different threats this deck presents. um so it just seems overall like you guys had a really good medical, but it may not be that same way in like some of the future events.
Yeah, like I think the main strategy of the deck is to play a bunch of monsters, uh, kind of like out card value them with Ash and Lightning. Chip away with Tidus if you can. There are some matchups where it's insane and some where it's not. Um, but at the end of the day, you're chipping away for some damage, and then eventually you'll bounce their whole board with like Lena Lev, or with just summons, or with Tross, or any of that. With burst maybe, and then you attack with like four monsters, and
Yeah.
that is the main strat. Like, and the other thing is that we're Shantoto proof most of the time. Not always, but most of the time. Now, what is a problem is Ixion. So
Yeah.
there were a couple games against some people where I only attacked with like Echidna and a Tonberry, and I wouldn't activate Tros or my Blue Worm. I would just attack like two at a time and be like, go. Because I knew they had Ixion in their hand and I wanted to see if they wanted to use it or not. So um you do have to play around that a little bit nowadays, but it's still doable. But it's annoying, but it's doable. So just be careful with that. Oh, I will say this too with the 13 matchup. Um, I call this a trifecta. My goal against 13. While it's nice to have Yuna, if you're going second, most of the time you don't have time or the luxury to Sildra for Yuna. Your goal should be to have Tros, Lightning, and this Negate Porum in your hand. I call that the trifecta. And hopefully one backup. You can any of the backups. Um, if you have Tros in play, they get you to three, or if you burst, obviously burst a bounce spell, you just gain massive value. If they get you to three, that's how you turn the corner, because you can just attack and bounce their stuff. Negating lightning is obviously very important with Porum, but also if they're using any resources to kill Porum, that's also good because that means they're probably slowing down, which means you're trading resources, which means eventually you'll get to Lena Lev, which is kind of what we're trying to do in Leo, is exchange resources so that we can eventually get to Lena Lev. Um, Actually, against 13, I ended up Lena resing Porum. It was that valuable. Uh, and then yeah, lightning is just always good to help stabilize. And you have all these roadblocks also, like I said, like Tonberry in play. Hitting EX burst is nice. Uh, you also have like an auto win with this Lev 6, things like that.
Auto win.
Yeah, it's kind of absurd. But
Yeah, I know that was a big benefit of like Doga decks back in the day, is just being able to comfortably run 3 6 CP Leviathan. Is hanging that on burst is a very real thing.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm confident this deck will stay around for a little bit. I will say the mirror match is atrocious. And if you do play this deck, um, I would recommend finding a way to beat the mirror match. Right now, I feel like there isn't very much skill in the mirror match. It's very, I don't even want to say it's draw dependent. It's very like you're hitting each other with like pillows. Like nothing you do matters to each other.
Seems
Like
very grindy, right?
yeah, but also like when I played Oki, in Swiss, it was he was like up four, maybe five cards in card advantage, and it didn't matter. It we were like what mattered was how many cards were in our deck. Like I actually remember one of his last turns, he had like not kidding, like 13 cards in his hand. And then like he couldn't play everything, so he just discarded two still for turn. But it didn't matter. Like uh certain cards matter in the matchup and certain plays matter. Actually
Yeah,
this
so it's more like hitting the card selection rather than
yes.
necessarily like the actual card volume.
Yeah, this I call it Amalev. This Amalev matters in the mirror match. So having multiple, like, you'll probably like echidna this Lev back rather than like a Sildra or something. But like if you keep up tempo and keep up, the board, it's you can't really push through when you're playing the mirror match. So um I don't know if Kadaj putting Kadaj back in would be the solution to that. I don't know, but um it's hard to say. uh Also, we I know Lopez played against Ice Wind twice in the tournament and won both times. And I feel like a Wind deck would be like one of the worst matchups for this deck. But he won both times, so I'm not completely sure, but what the solution is to like beat how to beat this deck, right? In my opinion, for this tournament, 13 was the worst matchup, but it was also still winnable by a good margin. And if we got lucky, we have a lot of bursts that are just insane against them. So, um, and also if we went first, that matters too, because we get to set up a little bit more before having to defend ourselves. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe if we see enough water, wind will pop back in, and things will get more diverse again, and then we'll see more 13, and all that kind of jazz. But I think this is like you said, like we kind of predicted the meta. We expected a lot of aggression, and this is a good solution to aggression. So the wall decks, I think, are if both sides know how the matchup goes, I think it's really close. Maybe a little bit in Water's favor because monsters are still good. But they can tailor their wall decks to beat monsters, so we'll see how that goes in the future. It's just um I'm
Now,
pretty
do you think
happy
you
about
would
this
play
deck.
this deck again, like at like the next event?
Me personally, no, but if somebody wanted to, yes. I think it's a good call. Do not go to one Tros, especially if people are siding. Oh man, we don't have sideboards. If people are just if people are going to start playing Monster Hate, you definitely want two Tros. So that's basically that's why we play two, is because insurance. If somebody blew up our Tros, we'd be upset if we only played one. So um yeah, I don't know what I would change is the issue. I personally don't like poo poo, but EX does matter. Fueling our graveyard for Lena matters. Finding Sildra matters. Uh, but yeah, I don't know what else. I can't really say any of the cards in this deck are bad. Like Tidus is bad in some matchups and a godsend in others. Um, I think the only reason I don't like poo poo is because it's like a filler card, right? It
Yeah,
doesn't do any one thing good or well. It's just like that
and
smoother card.
just being a little bit of glue to hold it all together.
Yeah. Um, I really don't know what I would change. It's kind of difficult. So I think it might just depend on what other people bring. Maybe cut one of these EX poems or something, but I'm not sure. It's it's pretty much there. Um, or maybe if you go like more glaciella stuff, you might end up cutting more monsters. Um, I don't know. But it is a good deck. It is a well-rounded deck. Shout outs to Oki, Lopez, and CD for we were the team for this event. It's kind of rad, super awesome. And shout outs to you for the Leo tournament. That was
Hey,
that was awesome as well.
was a good event.
Yeah, it was really good. Before we end, any changes that you would recommend for the Leo deck?
Um, at the moment, I'm not. I was really sold on this list. I think the Shao Lord could definitely become something else. The question is, how much do you want to like try to tailor to the 13 matchup? You know, personally for me, I think it's almost like a lost cause to even worry about the 13 matchup and
Mm-hmm.
just, if you show up against a 13 deck, you take that round loss and you hope you can win all the others. Um, so maybe I would want to look at like something that could help against like the Chaos Arc matchup. Um, maybe something like some kind of monster that could give them a little bit of trouble. I don't know what exactly that would be. Just that might be like the angle I would personally look at.
Yeah, I know we talked about this a little bit. Some of the Japanese players, so some of the cards that we're missing that they had in their decks, Renoa, 4 CP Renoa, the Flicker Renoa, 9 CP Shantoto forward, the Earth one, Warrior Light, because Leo casts, by the way, so you would get to activate your backups and draw a card if you hit Warrior Light with Leo. It's kind of cool. What else? Those are the big ones. People played Zombie. It's a 2-drop Earth monster that when it comes, it's part of the blue worm stuff. Those cycle monsters. Um, but it's like when it comes into play, you get back a 1-drop forward from your break zone, add it to your hand. It's an Earth monster, so you get back Leo. Um, don't think there was a different card. Um, yeah, I think that's it. But I know some of them also played 3 Sahagin, which I really wanted to fit 3 Sahagins into the deck, but I just feel like we don't have room. That's how I feel. Also, this card is only like great when you're ready to go off, um, and not like anywhere else. That's not completely true. If you ever think there's gonna be an ice meta, um, this card activates your forwards if it's in play. Also, if you have it in play, you can play around Heck 5 because pumping your forwards by 1K can be relevant sometimes. So there's that. Uh, I guess I don't know. I feel kind of the same way about the 13 matchup where I might forego it, try to beat some other matchups. But I do know, like the last time I played this deck, I tried with 1-drop skeleton monster and Tommy. So Realm could search for 2 like anti 13 cards, and it worked out pretty good. But I still think I was unfavored. Um, but I still might mess around with that a little bit more and see how that goes. Uh, but I guess some last words of advice here with Leo is, um, a lot of people think this deck is kind of luck based, and it can be, but I think the best way to play the deck is, unless you're desperate and you can only get 1 Leo spin, you should always try to set up for multiple Leo spins in a turn. So, like a lot of times, I would Sildra for like Sahagin and Leo and play Leo. Or if I already had Leo in my hand, I would Sildra for like Sahagin and Blue Mage or Quattro Queen because these are very similar cards. Um, so that I can just keep respinning Leo. Um, and
Yeah,
try
just getting more Leos every single time feels like my goal
yeah, you
once we
don't
get into the late game.
you don't want to set yourself up for only spinning with Leo once. You want to do it multiple times.
Yeah, I think there was my game against Tori on stream. I think one of the turns was literally four in a row spins. And
Yeah.
that's where the deck really wants to be.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. And then also there's a couple little niche things too, like if you have 11-9 in play already, you can use the Sahagin to bounce your Leo, and that is a bounce, so you get the -9. So just little things. Also, Adamantoise is better than you think. There's a lot of like damage specific cards that exist right now, and this prevents 3K, and that can matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add. What do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's about it.
All right.
Deck is fun. Deck is great. Both of them. Good job to you on cooking both of them, and congrats on your finalist night day 2.
Oh, I appreciate it. I it's not I don't get all the credit here. I work with good people, and we all, you know, it feels good to succeed, whether it's me or somebody else. I felt very happy, even though I didn't make day 2 of Kansas. If I knew who to cheer for, uh, and it was the king. It was the king. Alrighty. We will be signing off and catch you guys on the next one.
See ya.